The Boomgate Gallery is a great opportunity for inmates to display and sell their art. Without the gallery, there's no real outlet for the public to see inmate art. The art in the gallery, I think, is of a really, really high standard, and we ensure that by not just displaying any art that we come across within the jail. So we'll build a relationship with an inmate, we'll keep building up their skills, keep encouraging them, and when we finally see a piece we think is at the level the gallery needs, we'll accept that from them and hang it. Indigenous inmates will paint their own language, their own stories, either ones they've heard throughout their life or ones they've been told in jail.
When I first started was after my mother sat down and had a talk to me about her background and who my grandfather was, that he was a full-blood and that she was a half-blood Wiradjuri woman. And she started telling me stories and that I could paint those stories, and I like to try and portray them so other people can see them and can look into it and to have an understanding of my background and where my family has come from.
I paint mainly animals that are related to the totems from where I come from, yeah.
Something changed in me where I just wanted to just do full of my own traditional way. I create the story as I'm painting. Life is patterns and life works with everyone working together, so like an ant colony. The ant colony works together to build their place where they live, and a community works together with everyone doing their bit.
In my younger days, my family wasn't allowed to speak our language, so I don't know our language, see? Didn't really have some sort of a culture really until I come to jail. I was more or less learned from different mentors that come in, you know, and talk to me about it. Since I've learned it in Junee, you know, it's been really good for me because it's given me the idea of what I can paint and how I can paint it.
Non-Indigenous inmates might paint scenes of places they'd rather be. So you find inmates will paint landscapes of places they've either experienced personally or places they'd like to be once they get out of jail.
I suppose I do quite a lot of landscapes. Done a few paintings of being in jail and usually looking out. On the balcony over here you can see a distant view of the city, and I've used that a couple of times in pictures with the old brick wall of Long Bay in the foreground. It was supposed to be a giraffe in Taronga Zoo. Great view that the giraffes have of the cityscape, but as much as the view's nice, the giraffe's kind of stuck behind a big brick wall like we are.
I get most of my inspiration from nature because I'm a very much an outdoors person, sitting by a campfire and just enjoying the atmosphere of the bush of a night. This one has got the two little eyes staring in the corner. Yeah, a metaphor for the current situation.
I like to see the looks on people's faces as well when they see the paintings, and then so I can talk about those paintings myself. I want to get their impressions of what they see in the painting.
And the stories they tell are different to other people's stories, and the language they have to tell them is also different to other people's language, but they get the story out there in a very unique way.
Okay, is God an alien? Who is God? Aliens are thinking to themselves, saying, okay, if they've got church down in earth, right, why can't we have a church? So that's why the alien ship is beaming the church up with all the pretty little lights and that as well.
I remember one inmate I had, in a very postmodernist way, used to reference the old masters but put them in the jail context.
They used to say, you know, make some reference to jail, and that is what sort of works well in the gallery. So I thought, oh well, fingerprints is, you know, being in prison, you put your fingerprints down on all the time. So I just started making these paintings completely out of fingerprints.
I try and use more contemporary colours because I'm not a traditional artist as such. I like to try and twist it a little bit and put my own curve and my own story to it, and using my own colours so it represents me and what I'm thinking of.
The Boomgate Gallery sells what could be called outsider art. Most of the inmates have not had any art training at all. Considering that, the standard that we have here is quite spectacular. They are very curious and resourceful people.
It has a unique quality to it, but it's so original, and that's impressive. Nobody that went to art school would ever have thought of creating some of the stuff. You can find very significant pieces of artwork created of not very much at all.
So they'll run out of materials quite quickly, canvas, paint, board, very quickly. And if they're really determined, they'll just keep on going. They won't use that as a block to stop making and creating, and they'll use anything they can get their hands on.
A few of my paintings are on upcycled materials like old notice boards and bits of wood that I've sanded paper down and painted on. I think that stems back into ancestors. They used what they had, they used the land, so I try to incorporate that in it too.
The cardboard comes from our meal trays. They separate the food trays in layers, but with this cardboard in between the layers. So at the end of each sort of meal time, I can grab the cardboard to paint on.
Very, very, very hard for a lot of the inmates to be able to verbalise how they're feeling, to be able to engage and express their emotions. And art is an opportunity for us to start exploring that in a safe environment without feeling that difficulty disclosing information, without judgment, without fear of reprisal, without fear of shame or guilt. And it's just an opportunity for them to communicate their feelings.
They are often very talented, but they have never tapped that side of themselves. Actually, I think that there's vast untapped potential in working creatively.
I'd recommend it to anyone that is having a hard time and feels that they're not worth much, or feeling down and out. By painting as I feel, you'll find that your feelings change and you get better at it, and you feel better about yourself too.
And the feel of accomplishment when you finish doing it makes me feel good inside, definitely. I get a lot out of it. It helps me, builds my confidence, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
It's changed me a lot. I'm a lot less angry.
Same with me. I've had a lot of self-harm history in the past. Cut my wrists and stuff like that, and since I started art I haven't done it once. I'm 43 years old and I don't want to come back to jail.
We don't want this anymore, so art is a way out.
I frequently was sent inmates from their psychologist, often in a state of being suicidal, and they would come to art and they would start socialising with other inmates and become very engrossed in what they were making. They develop a culture within the jail of art making. It's a very generative thing to have in corrections.
Being able to reconnect with art inside prison basically saved my life, and it gave me an option to redeem myself. I was able to sell my paintings and support myself through 4 years of prison, where my family didn't have to pay for anything, which was just a way I could let them know that I wasn't worthless.
When they've done an artwork that they're proud of, it's hung up in a gallery for all to see, and then to receive money from it, it's definitely teaching them pro-social behaviours. I know there's been a few positive stories of offenders who have been released from custody that are now, really well known, Aboriginal artists especially.
It wasn't really about selling work, it was about showing people what I'd done with my time, and I was kind of proud of that. So it's another one of those things where you're taking something negative and turn it into a positive, and that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned. in prison is that you can use negative energy. You just have to think about it and put it to good use because it's very powerful.
One inmate I worked with who was actually a chronic self-harm inmate. When he was doing artwork, and he was actually very talented, it really, you could see the calmness that came over him. Yeah, and this particular inmate who has a quite high recidivism rate has not been in custody since, so I think the art really helped him.
We get a whole range of visitors into the gallery. Everybody from family members of inmates that are coming on weekends to visit them, a lot of medical staff, people from the legal fraternity, legal aid, solicitors coming in regularly. We also have a lot of overseas visitors.
I've been following the Boomgate Gallery ever since I've been with the department, and I frequently go in to see what is there. I've got quite a collection of inmate art at home.
People come to my house and they're fascinated by the paintings, reasonably priced and top quality work. So go no further.
If they're really determined, nothing stops them. And often they're the inmates that create completely unique art, and art you wouldn't find anywhere else but in the Boomgate Gallery.